We'll call a regular meeting of the New Ulm City Council for Tuesday, March 5th, 4:30 p.m. to order. First item on, well, before we get into the first item on the agenda, I'm just going to ask that we change the agenda a little bit. We're going to pull item number 3 and put that at the end as a request from our city manager here to discuss the next city manager position. And he is by all means welcome to attend the meeting. He chose us to leave, so we're just going to move it to the end so we can finish the meeting up before we go into that number. So anyway, first item on the agenda then is consent agenda items.
Mr. President, I'd like to pull item 1.4 from the consent agenda items.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to pull item 1.4. Reason is it's a bid and we can't do it on the consent agenda. So any questions on the rest of them?
I'll offer a motion to approve the rest of them. I'm sorry.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the others. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. All right, item 1.4. It's consider authorizing A&R Construction to complete repairs on a drill tower at Goosetown Station in the amount of $38,201.90.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
This was in the budget, so it's just kind of a expected expense.
No more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 2.1, raffle and gambling permit for Cathedral of Holy Trinity, and that's for Friday, April 12th, 2019.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 2.2, raffle and gambling permit, and that's for Country Club on Monday, July 22nd, 2019.
I'll offer a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? That is for District 88. So, okay. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 2.3, fireworks license, and that's for American Promotional Events Incorporated, and that's for June 20th, 2019, ending July 5th, 2019.
I'll offer the motion to approve.
Second.
We got a motion and a second, and that's at the Walmart parking lot, by the way. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 2.4, taxi license, and that's to be effective from March 6, 2019 to June 30th, 2019, and that's for taxi cab license for Red Rides Cab Shuttle Delivery LLC for out of Hanska.
I have a couple comments, or a couple issues were brought to our attention, and I'm going to defer to our city attorney to address those issues to the council.
Thank you, Mr. President, council members.
Yes.
The council had previously approved the issuance of a license for taxi service to the applicant on December 4th of last year, and this is an application for a second vehicle. I think there are a number of matters that the council should be aware of. I've had communications from several departments with the city. The applicant, Mr. Bray, apparently has got an unpaid utility bill that's been turned into collection by the city. In addition to that, there's unpaid fees for membership with the Park and Rec that have not been paid. The city code does not have a specific requirement that all obligations to the city of New Ulm be paid by an applicant before they could receive a taxi license, but there are general requirements indicating that the applicant have a good business reputation. And I would leave the issue of those unpaid obligations to the council to determine if it rises to that level. I think some more serious concerns are the following. During the course of the conversations that Park and Rec staff had with Mr. Bray about his unpaid membership, in February, he provided them with a lease stating that he was living in Eagle Lake, Minnesota. And I believe he is now, in his application, indicating that he lives at the West Blessum Street in Hanska address, which is the same one that I believe was used in December. So I'm not sure why he would have indicated that he's living in Eagle Lake in February. Of greatest concern, however, is the applicant maintains a Facebook presence on which he has got ads, and law enforcement in New Ulm called to our office's attention February 8th and February 7th, I believe. He had ads up on his page, one of which stated, "Don't want to go to the liquor store and have to carry all that heavy alcohol, we deliver it to your door." Second one, "Sick of the winter stay indoors, let us do your shopping for you. Alcohol, food, grocery, household, get it delivered." After we became aware of these, our office wrote to the applicant on February 22nd, indicating our opinion that it was not lawful for him to be delivering or providing alcohol without having a license for that issued by the city, and asking him to discontinue this, and that if he were to continue or to be actually delivering, that it could affect his existing license as well as result in a criminal charge. We assumed that that took care of it, but as of about 3:30 this afternoon, both of these ads were still on the business's website. And I'm not sure why they are continuing to be on there. I've got concerns about a second license being issued when I don't believe that the licensee is complying with his obligations under the existing license. So I believe he's present. I don't know if he has any explanation for any of this, but it's council's opportunity to ask any questions that
If you
you
want
might
to
have.
step up to the mic, name and address, just for the record.
Yeah, it's Jeff Bray, 104 West Blessum, Hanska. I just moved him over to Eagle Lake. I just haven't transferred my information yet. And I'm just there temporarily until I buy a house in town here. So it's just kind of temporary move. I'm staying with my girlfriend just I buy a house in town here. So, but as far as the alcohol delivery and stuff, I guess I wasn't aware that I needed a license for that. I'd be happy to put an application in or whatever I have to do to take care of that. And I guess if any other questions, I'd be happy to answer.
So have you gotten that letter from the city? Have you received that?
No, did you send it to P.O. Box 711 for my mailing address for Red's Rides? Or did you send it to the West Blessum?
We sent it to West Blessum. That's the address we had for you.
Sure. No, and I haven't gotten my mail for a little bit out there, so that's my fault, I guess.
Well, Mr. Bray, the license that you would require wouldn't allow you, you can't be delivering alcohol as you're advertising, okay?
Okay.
You're gonna have, a off-sale liquor store, you can get that set up, you could apply for a license, but, one of the things in the letter to you indicated, I don't know if what you would do would be to buy the alcohol and then have the purchaser pay you when you delivered it. You absolutely can't be doing that. You should be taking down the ads that you have.
I'll take them down immediately. That's just fine. And like I said, I didn't know. I apologize, and it won't happen again. If I need to
Because
do it.
I'm not clear what your current address is then.
Well, right now I'm in Eagle Lake, so it's I don't know what it is. Like 104 or something. I'm not sure what the street address is.
So what we could do is table this till the next meeting. If you get your address cleared up and get that to the city, you take these ads down. I hear good things about your cab service and that you're available and you're out on the weekends. In fact, I think you're the top probably cab service we got in town right now, right?
Yeah, I
What
would
I'm
say,
hearing.
you know, I'm really working hard at it. I guess I'm not trying to mess up. I'll pay those existing bills too, I guess. I've been in discussion with the lady at, the Park and Rec, but, I wasn't even aware of a past utility bill, so.
So you're willing to get that cleaned up?
Yeah, I'll pay for it right now if you want.
So I'll offer a motion that we table this item till the next council meeting on condition that you get your address to City Hall, you get the financial stuff cleaned up, and you get this stuff off right away,
Done deal.
okay? And then I think we'll support you. You know, like I
Okay.
said, you're providing good service, and we need you in our community, so, but we also have to have you follow the rules.
No, definitely, I understand, yeah.
Okay.
I'll
Thank you.
second that.
Sounds good.
I have a motion, but we're gonna see if there's
Do
a
we have
I second.
any more?
second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll skip item number 3, go on to item number 4.1. Set bid opening date for the 2019 MSAS Improvement Project. Mr. Kaler.
Thank you, Mr. President. This project delivery has progressed to the point where we've got our plans and specs prepared and ready to go, and we'd like to set the bid opening date. We have 3 weeks of advertising and some other items to follow state statute, so it's down the road a bit, but we'd recommend that it be set.
The bid opening date is Tuesday, April 9th, 2019.
I'll move it.
Second.
Or offer the resolution, waive the reading, excuse me.
Resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to offer resolution, waive the reading. Any more discussion? Seeing none, Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 4.2, set a public hearing date for 2019 North Highland Avenue Improvement Project. Mr. Gaylor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, this is one of the projects in the capital improvement plan. As you may recall, we are actually having an open house tomorrow evening at 4:30 to 6 at the high school auditorium. I guess that's right where you come in on Oak Street there if anyone's interested. But we'd like to move ahead with this project, and we'll take any comments we get tomorrow evening, and we'll set and I'd like you to set a public hearing for April 2nd for the for this project as well.
I'll move it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 4.3, tax exempt general obligation permanent improvement revolving loan fund bond series 2019.
Counselors, this is something we do every year just because of the timing of the bonding. This allows us to start spending funds for those projects now and then reimbursing them with the bond funds after they're issued.
With that, I'll offer the resolution, waive the reading to declare official intent of the city of Nome to reimburse utility, street, alley, and other capital expenditures with proceeds of tax exempt general obligation, permanent improvement revolving fund bond series 2019.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to offer the resolution, waive the reading. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Sorry, Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 4.4, advanced city revolving loan fund 250 to the city center apartments, TF Fund 329. Nicole.
Counselors, this is just something that we need to do to clean up a couple of balances at the end of the year. We have done some interfund activities and loans between these two funds in the past to correct the balances. Many of them will be paid back with TIF funds, and they will have an interest rate of 3% as we go forward. So.
Thank you.
I'll offer the resolution, waive the reading, approving.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to offer the resolution, waive the reading. Any more discussion? Seeing none, Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 4.5, encroachment of an existing building. Mr. Schnoberg.
Dave Schnumberg, Community Development Director. Black Forest Properties has a purchase agreement to acquire the property at 201 First North Street, and a closing date on that purchase has tentatively been set for March 19th. The current owner of the property is A.H. Hermel Candy and Tobacco Company, and the business name is New Ulm Wholesale. Now, the building on the property was constructed in 1916, and it encroaches into both the First North Street and the North Valley Street right-of-way. On First North Street, it's 0.3 feet. On North Valley Street, it's 0.8 feet. Now, this is not an unusual situation. We have many of our older buildings that, for whatever reason, encroach into the right-of-way. And so in the past, we've dealt with this kind of situation either by easement or license. In some of the earlier cases, it was solely by resolution. So we are recommending that you approve the encroachment request with conditions. There are 4 conditions that are identified. One is that we would authorize the encroachment by easement or license. Secondly, that the city attorney would make the decision as to the form of authorization that would be used. And number 3, that the agreement would include appropriate language on insurance, indemnification, defense against losses and claims, liability for any damage resulting from normal city operations within the right-of-way area, and any other appropriate requirements. And then we have a 4th item that is not related to the encroachment, but more so related to the property, and that is that the property currently has perpendicular parking in which vehicles back out directly onto North Valley Street. And we would like to see that type of movement eliminated because it is an unsafe situation. That concludes.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions, concerns?
The parking then will be on the street, is what you're thinking, for that area?
Well, there's parking that can be
Yeah.
could be situated between the building and the railroad track. There's also parking towards Center Street. And so there's some other areas that are currently being looked at for parking as well.
So will this matter come to the planning and zoning for parking, for their future needs, for what they're gonna do with the business, or?
If they require a variance, that would come to the planning commission. If they meet their parking requirements, either by doing it on-site or adjoining the site, then it wouldn't be necessary to come to the planning commission.
But they're aware of it, that they'll
Yeah.
have to come up with some
Yeah.
sort of requirement for
Yeah.
the entity.
Yes.
Mr. President, may I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Mr. Schnorbach, it says perpendicular parking will not be permitted. It's just any kind of parking will not be permitted?
Within that right-of-way area.
right-of-way,
So from
okay.
the curb,
Because they
To
could do
the
angle
building.
parking and say it's not perpendicular, so no parking will be allowed.
yeah, I guess
Thank
you
you.
could say that.
Mr. President, one other matter, and I should have called this to Mr. Schnurberg's attention before now, but I think the intention would be that whether this is an easement or license, that in the event that the building is demolished or removed, that it would expire. So it would be something that would be assignable. If the title is transferred, the rights to the license or easement, but if the building is gone, then of course it should end. They wouldn't be allowed to rebuild on the same footprint.
So that's condition number 6.
5 or 6, right?
I guess for a safety thing, do we have to have any concerns with the railroad tracks that cross through the property with a setback or anything with parking in regards to that?
Well, there are setback requirements for parking purposes. We have not yet seen a parking plan for the property, so until we do so, it's hard to say what they're looking at.
I'm just thinking, if they're going to have activity there, that it would be well posted so they're not blocking the railroad for the trains on their property that goes to the elevator.
Right.
Thank you. Any more questions, concerns? Seeing none?
I'll offer a resolution to waive the reading, approve with conditions, and the extra conditions added, the request.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to offer the resolution, waive the reading. Any more discussion? Seeing none? Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 5.1, accept the list of claims paid in the amount of $920,495.75 and approve a list of claims to be paid in the amount of $202,906.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. At this time, we'll go on to item number 3, and we'll give Chris time to leave, but you are welcome to stay.
I will recuse myself from the meeting, guys.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Have a good evening.
And then we'll turn it over to Gary.
It's only half an hour. All right, well, thank you for the opportunity to be here with you this evening. Looking forward to tonight's conversation with you regarding our candidates and regarding the next steps in this hiring process. So a few things just to give you some background as far as tonight goes. We really have two primary roles. One is for you to pick candidates to interview, and then the second one is to determine what components you'd like to include in an interview process. And then thirdly, and much less significant, is whether or not you wish to provide any reimbursement to candidates who need to travel to get here. So the first, I just want to provide a little background information as well. This position was advertised starting in early January. We had 30 applicants for the position. From that group, I reduced it to 14 who were assigned to move to the next steps in the process, which were a video interview and complete a personality index. Two candidates after that point in the process withdrew, and that leaves 12 candidates that you all had an opportunity to review prior to this evening. This evening's conversation is admittedly a very awkward one. There are competing legal standards here tonight. So the first is that you as a elected body have to make decisions in an open public meeting of the council when you're charged with making a decision, and tonight you're charged with making a decision specifically on who the candidates are. So here's the competing force. That is, candidates are protected. Their identities are protected at this point from being released to the public until you pick people to actually interview with you. The law says interview with the appointing authority. You are the appointing authority in this case. When they are named for interviews, then their names become public. But that's not going to occur until after our conversation tonight. So you all have a numbering system. You all, meaning the council members, all have a numbering system that I gave you to use for our discussion this evening. So it's not going to be very entertaining for anyone else in the room who doesn't have the code. You won't know what we're talking about, which is by design. I will say, in addition to not naming candidates, it's also important not to identify them in some other way. For example, if you said, candidate number 350 was the city administrator in city X, well, we've just identified who that person is by saying they're the city administrator in city X. So it's important to just keep that in mind. And what typically happens is
not a lot of discussion is generally needed, because here's what usually happens. You have 12 people that you have all looked at, you've studied a great deal of material on them. There are some that generally rise to the top for all or most of you. There are some that fall to the bottom for all or most of you, and then there's some in the middle. It's really the ones in the middle that require conversation, because if all of you agree that a candidate should be interviewed, well, there's no point in talking about that candidate, because you can't talk about them, you know, in a significant way anyway. You're going to interview them. If somebody is not mentioned at all by any of you, same standard applies. So I just want to put that all out there. Again, it's not a very entertaining conversation, and, you know, like if somebody goes off the path a little bit, I'll just jump in nicely and, you know, guide back. Guide what? I probably wouldn't say that, but, you know, I'll guide you back to the path. So I get it that it's awkward and unusual, but it's always important to, you know, put that out there right from the beginning. And I know council members had an opportunity to review a memo from me that already, you know, kind of planted the seed on that as well. So with that said, the first order of business is to talk about candidates. My preference for that is to have each of you just go around and list your top candidates by number, candidate number, and that really helps to narrow the conversation down. Now, I do know that Shauna has met with the Personnel Committee and has a report from them regarding candidates as well. So it seems like it would be logical to hear, you know, from her at this point, and then move to that, you know, going through the list of candidates from all of you. So does that sound okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, thanks, Gary. Shauna Boomgarden, Human Resources Director. So, Counselor Schmitz and Counselor Fisher, we met before the meeting today to talk about the recommendation from the Personnel Committee. And what our recommendation is we're recommending 4 candidates to move on. And the candidates that we recommend moving on into the next step of the process is candidate 6, candidate 7, candidate 8, and candidate 10.
So I think the committee will also have some input on interview components and that sort of thing, but I would prefer that we wait on that conversation until you all settle on the candidates that you would like to interview. So what I would suggest we do now is just go around and list out, you know, by each council member, list out, and Sean and I will be writing down, you know, who said what, so then we can kind of tally up where you're at.
You want to start with Counselor
We just start last and then
Schultz,
just.
yeah.
Sure. I had candidate number 5, candidate 4, candidate 10, then I had a tie for candidate 6 or 8.
Okay. Those are in order. Is that right?
They're in order.
All right, perfect.
So a little
Numbers-
bit of change there, but
Okay, number 6, number 5, number 7, and I had a tie with number 8 and 10. I had chose 5.
It's fine. Okay.
Mayor, did you want to give any input? Okay. Counselor Mack?
I chose 5, 6, 7, and 10.
So do you want to, the personnel committee members want to share individually, or are you just comfortable with Shauna's report representing where you were at?
I'm comfortable with the report.
All right.
We did discuss it
You
more
did
in
already.
detail.
Okay.
And
And those were 6, 7, 8, and 10. Okay.
Specific order.
Yeah. All right, so this is what generally happens. I mean, you can probably all tell by just listening to the numbers that there's patterns. So the first one that I would point out is candidate number 6.
Six.
This
We
is
all
in
have
no
6.
particular order, but just to put it out there. Candidate number 6 is one of those that was mentioned most commonly.
by all of us.
Yep. Yeah, great point.
Yep.
Candidate, let's go to candidate number 5. Candidate number 5 was mentioned by 3 of you, not by the Personnel Committee. All right, let's go then to candidate number 7, was mentioned twice and by the
Got 3
person.
times.
3,
Yeah,
3,
but-
Well, just-
Four times.
oh, it's.
Actually, the Personnel Committee, if they got 2 votes, was mentioned 4 times.
Yeah, we give, because.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Counselor
All right,
Hey,
all right.
Fair or unfair, they do.
they
All right.
do,
Yeah,
It's
right?
two, it's,
Yeah, two, okay, sorry,
So
you're right,
four
yeah, yeah.
times.
All right, good. So, then candidate number 10, across the board,
Yep.
mentioned. Then the next candidate looks like 8 to me.
Yep.
And that would be 4 times. So, interestingly, the only other candidate mentioned at all was candidate number 4,
Right.
which came up 1 time.
Yep, so we could take that one out.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is generally what happens with, you know, a group like this, that you all tend to
Was mine.
come together on who you see. So, I mean, to me, I think that interviewing 5 is a good place to be. You know, there's always a possibility, and it happens regularly, where somebody between now and the interview date backs out. So if you have 5, that just drops you down to 4. Still a very, very good place to be for interviews. So from my standpoint, if you're comfortable, I certainly am with just bringing in the 5 that you all collectively arrived at. Any,
I guess I'm not opposed to it. I just don't want to see the list get too large.
right,
So
Yeah.
8 was mentioned 4 times and 5 was mentioned 3 times, right?
Yep, that's correct.
What'd you say?
8 was mentioned 4 times and 5 was mentioned 3 times.
Yes.
So we got 3 4s and a 5 and a 3, right?
Yes.
the one thing I'd point out about candidate 5 is that I think the first 2 folks gave those in order, and 5
Oh,
was
so
the,
that's-
5 was the first mention by 2 counselors. So they may have ended the total number as being the lowest in times mentioned, but if you like weighted that higher on the first choice, that would, you know, bring them in. But I'm not saying you should, but that's
And
what.
I would say if the Personnel Committee would have an alternate for our number 5 person, it would be number 5.
Candidate number
Right.
Candidate number 5, yes.
Yeah.
So it just all depends on how many for sure we want to interview.
Yep,
Yes, yep.
yep.
And that's why we only gave 4 names.
Right.
So 7 and 8 appear to be our swing ones, right then? We have 6, 10, and 5 we all agree on, right?
No, 5 was only 3 votes. So we're at 6,
Oh,
7,
okay.
8, 10. That's where it actually comes back to what the committee recommended. We're gonna be spending a lot of time with these people. I guess, and maybe we need to talk about what the plans are as we go forward, once we pick the candidates, and then see if we really want to keep 5 or go back to 4 or whatever number. Because we got a heck of a process that we discussed today that we're gonna take place. So, I don't know. But it's up to Gary, what do you think? You're running the show here.
Well, you know, I always, my advice to elected bodies is always, if you're on the fence, include, don't exclude. Because yes, it's a little more time that you all spend, but personally, I feel better about 5 than 4, just because what I've seen lately is people withdraw. And if you're down to 3, you could argue, that's not a bad number, and I would agree with that, but I get really nervous if it goes below that. So generally, my advice is go on the higher side rather than the lower side, because the only thing that it costs you, if you will, is a little extra time.
Right.
So, you know, that's the bottom.
I have no problem with it. I mean,
Yeah.
we spent a lot of time discussing that
Yeah.
today, so.
Yeah,
I really like candidate number 5. I would really
yeah.
be frustrated if we did not include that individual based on their application.
I would concur with Mr. Schultz on number 5.
I'm gonna agree with him on that myself, because that was number 5.
So it seems logical to include those 5 candidates. Candidates number, I'll put them in order this time. Candidates number 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10. Everybody, that's right with everyone? Everyone agrees with
Like you
those?
said,
like
the
we know how to
chances are
count.
somebody may withdraw, and we're
Correct.
down to 4 anyway, so.
Yep. Yep, yep. All right.
No.
So, oh, sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. And now that it's, now that they'll be public, you'll send me some information on each of the candidates.
Yeah, we'll write up a little, like, one little paragraph bio on each of the candidates, each of the finalists that you've now selected, and I'll send that to Shauna tomorrow, then you can release that, to the public, to the media, whatever you normally, would do with that, so.
Did you want to contact the candidates first and let them know, and then we'll
So-
release? Or
So I will be in touch with these candidates, if not yet tonight, it'll be first thing tomorrow morning. So, yep, they're gonna know before any release even gets drafted. Yep. I always call people right away, just so they know where they're at. All right, so I don't know if you wanna take a motion on that, or if you're just comfortable saying these are the people we wanna interview, because, all you'd have is numbers in your motion, but
I think we
At
have
the
a,
end, we can do a
Number goes
motion on
with
the
the
whole
name.
package.
the whole thing?
What we're gonna do. So,
Okay.
because we're gonna make some other
Yeah,
decisions here,
Yeah.
what we-
Yeah,
how we're
that's true.
going forward.
okay.
yeah.
I think we all agree that these 5 will be.
Okay, sounds real good. So then we should talk about, the next thing to talk about then would be the interview process itself. And I know that Shauna and the Personnel Committee have given that some thought, and Shauna and I have talked about that as well. So maybe I'll just turn it over to you and, okay.
So what our thoughts was to do a 2-day process. So what our thoughts was on the first day, we would do the interviews with the full council and myself. And it would be an hour interview with the council and then a 15-minute presentation on a subject that we would give the candidate. So you would have an hour and 15-minute interview and presentation with each of the candidates. So that would last from about approximately 8:30 till 2:30. And then what our recommendation would be is to have a meet and greet at the fire hall, if it's available, from 4 to 5:30. And that way the candidates can meet the public, they can meet other employees if they want to come, PUC members, counselors. So that'll be about an hour and a half. We would have water, coffee, cookies, and stuff like that available at the fire hall from 4 to 5:30 that first day. And then what would happen is the first day would end at that point, and then day 2 we would have starting out 30-minute interview with the department heads and the interim PUC director. So that would be a 30-minute interview with the 5 candidates on the first day. We would then have a tour, so it would be approximately a 1-hour tour of the city and a 2-hour tour with, hopefully he's available, with potentially the park and rec director to show them the civic center, the rec center, and the community center to show them some of the amenities that we have here in town. And then after the tour is over, we then have the council meeting that night, and that is when we would discuss the finalists or who we want to choose either for the city manager position or who we want to choose, the 2 individuals who we would choose to move on to the next step in the process, whatever that may be. And that, unfortunately, it has to be an open session also. So we have to have that discussion in open session and not closed session. So that is the recommendation that we have from the personnel committee. If anybody had any other thoughts on anything or questions.
Shauna, you said this day 2, 30-minute interviews with department heads. Can you explain that a little bit more?
So we would have set interview questions. I would probably lead the interview. So there would be, I don't know, probably 10 or so questions. All the department heads would be present. So what I was thinking is the department heads would be in the audience. We would have the candidate up here. Each candidate,
One
we
at
would
a
have
time,
30,
or-
one at a time.
Okay,
Yep,
that's what I
30
wasn't
minutes.
sure on.
Sorry, one at a time. Yes.
All right, thank you.
And then for feedback from that group, generally, what I suggest is, I give them just a little form to fill out about, how did you feel this candidate would fit with the leadership team? How do you feel, what are their strengths, that kind of thing. I prefer not to get verbal feedback from groups, because there's always, some people that aren't real comfortable, sharing their verbal feedback, so it's always good to get written feedback, and then when that interview is done, I collect all that, and then I send that to my assistant, who puts it all together and would have it like within a couple of hours for the council then to review. Here's the feedback that these folks had regarding each of the candidates. So that's generally what I suggest, but we can do it all kinds of other ways as well.
And after discussion on the dates we were thinking, so I hope everybody can open their calendars right now, was April 1st and April 2nd.
Ooh.
April 1st, huh?
April 1st.
Never gave that a thought, did we?
I thought of it. I didn't,
Yeah, the original, I think, was 27 and 28 of March is what we had initially talked about. Shauna asked me about April 1st and 2nd, and I am available both days, so that would work just fine with me.
So the council would have to be available for April 1st if you want to do the meet and greet that day. And then, April 1st for the whole day because the interviews will be the whole day, and then the meet and greet. And then April 2nd, it would just be for the council meeting on Tuesday, April 2nd.
Is it possible, as we discussed earlier today about what he's going to put together, that we could meet as the personnel committee and come back rather than, do we want to discuss a lot of this information, pros, cons, plus, minuses, and everything in the public, or should we just have a recommendation from the personnel committee?
So it's your call. You can do that. I mean, and that allows you to have the meeting, more privately. A lot of times what happens is by this point in the process, it kind of goes like tonight did, where you sort of have come together on candidates anyway. So it may not add value to the process, but it's certainly something that you could do like in advance of the council meeting that evening or that late afternoon. Have that meeting if you wanted.
Yeah, we could have that meeting at 3:00 before the council meeting if.
I just like the idea better because I just don't think we want to negative anybody in public here, whatever, if, and hurt anybody's feelings or whatever might happen to be. So I just, more private if it's possible. Not that we can't do it public, but.
I guess I would want the council's opinion on that, the others, and we get together and we make a recommendation, do you feel you're being left out of some of that input, or do you?
It would get the information.
I
Just that we wouldn't probably verbally talk about it here, we'd have a recommendation. They can, we could afterwards, if somebody has something they really want to say about it, it's open.
Right.
Fine. But we can avoid a lot of it if we'd have a recommendation, maybe. It's up to you guys.
Yeah, pro and con to it,
Yeah.
no, you might have questions like, okay,
All depends on how it goes.
Yeah, right.
Sean, I'm doing the math, and I'm not coming up with the same math as yours on those hour-long interview and a 15-minute presentation for 5 people.
Well, we added one. so
Works
maybe
only
we're
if
all-
nobody wants to eat or nobody wants a break between any of that time.
So I think I had
Thought we were gonna have 4 candidates, though?
We were on 4, and you
Okay,
added
that's what
one,
I'm
so that
thinking
could throw it
of,
off.
yeah. No, we have 5 candidates, so.
So it would be like 8:30 to 9:45, 9:45 to 11, 11 to 12:15. You would take a 45-minute lunch. Then it would be 1 to 2:15, and then 2:15 to 3:30. And then the council meeting would be at 4:30.
Well, that's the.
Oh, that's the first day. So that's what it would be. So it would be 8:30 to 3:30.
3:30, okay, that's what I was thinking.
And then the following that would be the meet and greet from 4 to 5:30, or we can push that back to, from 5 to 6:30. I mean, as far as time goes, just in case we get behind. We may want to do that.
You won't get behind.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay. We can.
You give us the questions, right, and you kind of
Yeah.
direct.
We'll review
Yeah,
questions and, yeah.
We'll get the
You'll
questions
keep us on
prepared
track.
Yeah.
together. So,
And I'll
so
keep candidates on track too. I mean, there's some people that, I mean, it doesn't, they might answer 15 minutes on one question and then I'll like gently nudge them and say, hey, time is, you can't talk for 4 hours, so.
Well, do you have it structured that way? This is a 45, this is an hour-long interview. We don't,
Absolutely.
at the end of an hour, your
Yeah.
interview is done.
Yep.
If you don't answer,
It works. It'll work.
it
fine.
usually does, yeah.
Yeah.
But, okay.
so then we would do 4 to 5:30 for the meet and greet, if that works for everybody for day one.
I think I can
So
make
you're
my
gonna send
calendar
us
work. I don't know.
what it is? So I don't have to write down?
I will absolutely will send you the schedule.
How are your calendars?
My calendar's good.
Yeah.
I
we
can
just-
switch what I have, so I
We
think
had
I'm
set it
okay.
up based on what we had available.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
so,
yours?
yeah.
Mine's, I can make it work.
Okay.
Good.
I'll check
David?
my schedule. I can make that work.
Council, yeah, you can make it work.
Retired people haven't.
Okay, good.
Great.
So does that sound
I
like
don't
a
normally work out.
way to go, process
Sounds
wise?
very
Is that
good.
okay for everybody?
Yep.
Good. So the next thing to talk about then is possible reimbursement for candidates. And I always get the question, well, what's common? Well, it's all over the place. There are some councils who say, no, we're not going to reimburse anybody for anything. There are some councils who say we'll reimburse people's travel in its entirety to come here. Obviously, with a 2-day process like this, it's very possible that candidates, if they're not very local, would stay potentially 2 nights because of the, kind of potential early morning commitment one day, and then the next, that evening. Well, the candidates, so could be 2 nights. And then, so that's another option. I've seen cities that have said, well, we'll just reimburse for the hotel stay and not to get here, but just to say, we're gonna, we'll put you up for 2 nights at, such and such a hotel. That's another option as well. Generally, I suggest that you don't leave the door wide open on travel reimbursement and say, it's gonna be capped at not to exceed whatever amount makes sense to you. But I'd hate to see you in a situation where somebody's, spending $300 on a meal and it's just that sort of thing. So, and that would not ever happen, but I generally encourage just saying, if you're gonna reimburse expenses, to do it up to a certain dollar amount and then just leave it there, realizing that doesn't always cover everyone, but people that are coming from long distances generally understand that they probably aren't going to have full reimbursement for their travel. But you certainly can do it.
Couldn't we just take the days involved and just use per diem and be done with it? I mean, that would make it simple for meals. You don't have to worry if they're gonna spend $30 or whatever. You're gonna get X number of dollars if you.
Whatever the federal reimbursement rate is.
Because that's what we do for travel.
Yeah, that's what we do. So yeah,
Mhm.
we could do that.
Follow
That's-
your policy for that, you bet.
For the meals and the hotel.
Yes. Well, the motel, that'd be local anyways. That wouldn't be that
Right,
good.
that'd be the best.
Yeah, you kind of know what that's. What
So
that-
yeah, and then it would be rental car and flights for a couple of candidates. And I know one of the candidates' flights is going to be extremely expensive. So the other one, I don't think it'll be that much of an issue, but one of the candidates will be probably about, I don't know.
We dare say.
Yeah. It'll be
We're-
expensive.
We're getting in the.
Yep,
area
getting into
here, but-
detail.
Yeah.
I say give them here's the airline amount, whether 100, 500, 1,000, give them an amount and that's it. Treat them all alike, if you want to do that.
Just for their travel expense?
Right. That's a lot of work for staff. Well, we didn't eat this, we took them out for lunch for this. Here, you get $500, you want to come or not? 1,000, I don't
Well, we
care what
could-
the number is.
We could base it on a per diem and say, well, there's 2 days involved. In New Ulm here, it's $75 a day or whatever it might be, you're gonna get $150 for meals. We'll furnish the motel.
Does the federal per diem cover the flight too? I mean, do they have
No.
No.
standard
No.
flights?
No, that's the one that's gonna.
That's the one, that's the one that I'd like a number or
Right, just get a number.
for the flight. I mean, I'm fine with reimbursing hotels. It'll be hotel, rental car, and then meals.
At the per diem, if we decide to do the per diem rate, then we're following a standard.
So do we do between 600 and 800, or, I don't know what it is to,
Put a max, that's what
for-
we'll go up to. Because some people will take,
Right.
maybe
Right.
first class, whatever, we don't know what they're gonna do, so.
Right.
And
I don't.
I was thinking 500,
I
but
think you got to be a little flexible with the flying because, you know, just to find out tonight, tomorrow, and can you get a ticket, you know, and short notice, you know, might pay a little bit more.
Well,
Just to leave that flexibility.
It's
out
almost
there.
a month.
Yeah.
You should be okay, but
But-
still.
I mean, I'd be fine putting dollar amount not to
Yeah.
exceed $800 or, you know, just,
how much?
I said 8.
No.
Okay.
We want to be like the county for reimbursement.
Well, that wouldn't be going that high, I'll guarantee you that.
so are you thinking 500 less, or what are you thinking?
I was,
Or do we
I'd be fine
wanna-
with 5 or 6, but I don't want to go any higher than that.
Can you put us a class? I mean, not that they're booking first class, or do you
Yeah, I
just
guess.
put a?
Then we got to
Just
deal
put
with
an amount.
receipts and
Okay.
proof. and-
I like the dollar amount.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
just,
Okay.
here's
If
what
every
you're
one
getting.
of us went and booked a ticket tonight to the same place, we're all gonna have 5 prices.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's just the way it
Yep.
is. So I think set a dollar amount.
Les, you're at 5, Larry, you're at 8.
What's
Well, Les said 6 too. I mean, I could agree at 6, so, I mean, I'm
Let's do
flexible.
6, I can live with that.
I can live with it.
6?
No, we need a mo.
Yep.
So,
6 and then follow
600 for
your-
the flight reimbursement, federal reimbursement
And
for.
if somebody doesn't want to, we do have the Skype it or however. We still can do a interview,
could.
right?
we
They
could do
probably will
that.
ask that, right? What have you done with
could.
that in the past?
Well, so I would say never hire anybody you haven't had in a room with you. So
So I mean,
at-
yeah, okay.
At some
First
point,
interview.
you know, at some point, you're gonna need to have the person here, so.
We're not doing 2 interviews.
But we, I mean, if this becomes a huge obstacle, we can also regroup and talk about it and see if there's any issues. I don't anticipate any issues with how you're approaching this, so.
So we'll agree on 600 tentatively, can we get a
600?
motion?
So is that just for the flight, or is that in the?
600 just for the
600
flight.
flight.
2-day hotel and
Day hotel, 2-day meals.
2-day meals and 2-day car rental.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Car rental could be a touchy one, because it depends on when you fly into the
Yeah.
12 midnight stuff, you could have 3 days.
Uber, you got to do Uber.
And the meals are at the per diem rate.
The per diem rate, yes. Wow, that
So
was
you
good.
want to do a motion then to, on the candidates and the reimbursement and?
I'll offer a motion to approve the 5 candidates we've selected, the reimbursement for the first interview. I suppose we have to talk about the second interview when we get to that, right?
If there is a need. So you never know. I always say, just like, go into this thinking this is the end of the process.
Okay.
If you get to the end of the process and go, this isn't the end of the process, well, then we'll talk about
Sure.
what do you need to do for the next steps.
Okay.
So,
All right. So I got a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any more discussion?
I don't know if we want to include in our motion our numbers for the candidates.
He did.
The numbers.
You
I
didn't
didn't
say
the
the
numbers.
numbers.
Oh, we should
Well, the per
include the
diem for everything but.
The numbers.
numbers.
No, the
The
numbers,
numbers.
The candidates.
the
We
numbers
wanna
of the
officially-
5,
candidates.
6, 7, 8, and 10.
5,
Right.
6, 7, 8, 10. Yep.
Okay. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you, Gary, appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you around. Meeting adjourned.
Cindy, you got all those candidates figured out?